Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in, because in this video we are going to take a close look at the GR3000 from AliExpress. So recently I picked it up and I was really curious about this new version. So already has some things on the box. So first of all, this has the option to add controllers to it. Yeah, we can watch pictures, listen to music, or in other words, it's just a multimedia device. It does an HDMI output, and again, we do have like the double handle support, Type-C connection, and then 5.1 inches of a display. But let's take a close look at the device itself. When you're looking at the price point I paid for it, we're going to get in the area that we have like a lot of different options. The overall, let's say, the shell looks kind of cool. It has like a very nice curve to it, especially at the sides, gives it a little bit better grip. But when you're looking closely to it, you can already maybe see that it has a very cheap look, and it's absolutely how it feels. We have the dual joystick configuration. I'm not a big fan of it, but both of them are like slider joysticks. And again, I don't like that at all. The D-pad has a very, let's say, an extremely sturdy feel to it, a long travel, or better said, like a very heavy, let's say, resistance. And it is not going to be playing that great already, I can tell you that. So one thing I wanted to check out, if we can actually use the D-pad for fighting games. But I was afraid of this, because the inputs of the D-pad are absolutely horrible. Over here we have a volume control, there are just micro switches. So at the side we're going to get ourselves the ABXY, and of course, already mentioned, the slider joystick. It's kind of interesting, it's sliding, but it is also tilting a little bit, so this is not going to be very comfortable. And then of course we have the sliders, select the start, there are also micro switches. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is remove the plastic over here. That's something I do not always remove. And I do get a lot of comments on it, but it's going to be a nightmare recording because and this thing is, this front glass is really glossy, and I can tell you what they are using is this very thin plastic at the front, and it is absolutely low quality. Oh man, that is scratch sensitive. So unfortunate when it comes to the device itself and the emulation performance. Yeah, it's just not the, let's say, device that I would say I'm going to put in my top 10 as the best devices for this year. Unfortunately, they still use this weird kind of software that we have seen many times before. Why are they putting this 8G logo? Go away. Put it over there. Yeah, there we go. So we can remove the freaking Parker in here. The weight and overall is not super bad when it comes to this device. It does not feel like this cheap device that we have seen many times before now. Part of it has already been opened. There we go. Need to be careful with this, I'm not going to ruin the connections here. Can I be very gently open it up? It's quite flexible plastic, and there we go. The battery, yeah, what kind of quality is this? So first of all, what is kind of an interesting thing that they didn't like use a plug we have seen with Anbenic devices. What we're actually going to get that they soldered the battery straight on here. Let's see if I can get a glimpse of anything. Man, there is some weird stuff going on in here, but I can tell you, looking at the battery from this side, there is no way of telling how much milliamp they are actually using. If I need to guess, it would be around 2-3,000 milliamp, nothing more than that. Or some other brands have more like different modules in the inside. I mean, when you're having a broken, let's say, joystick, you can replace them quite easily, but this time you need to resolder everything. So replacing parts in this handheld is in Mission Impossible mode. That's one thing to be sure. Okay, so let's put it back together. So replacing parts in this handheld is in Mission Impossible mode. That's one thing to be sure. Okay, so let's put it back together. Time has been set for 15 seconds. Okay. Advanced information. We can put in the owner. Firmware version. Seems to be this on an older version because it has been set to 12.12. Yeah. 2012 or yeah, no, it's not saying that. I have a Braveheart over here. The key tune can be changed out. Let's turn it off. Oh, you're only having one key tune, or you can just turn it off. So that's basically what we're going to get. There is not a lot of information, but let's see when it comes to the games. Do we have an extra option for there for getting back into the menu? So pressing the home button here at the top, we're going to get yourself, when you're in the game, this menu. So here we're going to get the game reset, quick load, quick save, return and exit. There is no way to reconfigure the emulator or the controls itself. So what you see is what you're going to get. Next up, let's try some Mega Drive. The audio is kinda slow. So far, I know they are not running some PAL ROMs on here. There we go. Yeah. Let's actually play the game, but it runs really slow. That's unfortunate, to be honest. So let's start off with this particular game, and the reason why I have tested this many times before on different systems. The volume is not that loud, quite disappointing. Oh man, this analog stick is so horrible. The D-pad is way better. Right, there we go. I have no idea how they configured everything. Alright, there we go. But the emulation performance is so much better than the previous handhelds I've tested out. Think about the X series. They are running exactly the same kind of layout, or at least the software at the back end. So there is some improvement here, so that is quite positive. Another thing I want to try out to see how they actually get the arcade stuff to work. With the previous system, I can still remember that it was absolutely horrible. I keep grabbing to the analog stick, but I cannot play with that thing. The response to the D-pad is not bad at all. But the ultimate test for this cheap device is of course PlayStation 1. And for the people who know the game, listening to the soundtrack says everything. It sounds completely messed up and it doesn't run like it should be. There's no way of adjusting this in the menu. Maybe it's a BIOS issue or something else, or maybe you can implement frame skip and you cannot do anything. It's quite unfortunate, and yep, they completely messed it up. That sounds so hilarious. Run. But I was quite surprised to see that the HDMI works plug and play. I have seen many of these cheaper devices and most of them needs to be, let's say, mess around with the menu or you need to reboot, but this time it seems to be a plug and play solution. But what is even more cooler, they can make a hybrid device with this. Plug in controllers and just use it actually like a game system. I personally love this idea. So what we're going to get with the optional controllers is just your typical PlayStation 2 fake controllers. But not like the cheap ones. No, not at all. We're going to get our very decent rubberized joystick. The D-pad feels not bad at all. A little bit too clicky to my taste. The overall buttons are not bad at all. And overall, I'm really satisfied. Let's slap some batteries in. I think there were 2 AAAs and let's get funky. All of the plastic craziness. And let's check out if we can use this thing. So they did implement a dongle or a Type-C to USB, so that's great. We're going to use the import, do I saying it correctly? Yep, we're going to use this particular port just to see if this is going to be recognized by the system. The controls are turned on. It doesn't make any communication so far. Yeah, no, that doesn't work at all. Okay, so let's try to plug it in here. And this seems to be doing the trick, but the game has already been powered on, so let's reboot this thing and let's see if we can get some of the controls to work with this. Everything has been set up, I just need to reboot the system itself. Let's power on the game. Time for some beefcake turns. Well, it turns into nothing, especially the beefcake with dinos. So the image quality is a little bit washed out. And I mean especially when you're looking at the overall quality, but not to the point that it's super bad. What's kind of cool, so actually we can play the game without any problem. It plays so much better than the original controls on the handheld, by the way. If you want to play together with a friend, that is possible. What we need to do is press start on the second controller and we're ready to go. So that's pretty damn cool. So together you can just use this thing actually like a game system. And some of the main games like this game seems to be running just fine. But what I did notice, when you're going to like unplug this thing, somehow it doesn't give the signal back to the display on the handheld. So the only thing I can do is basically reboot the system and get it to work this time. Yep. The weird thing is, if you're not going to be in a game itself and you're going to unplug it then it seems to be working. So you need to get out of the game and then unplug the cable. The GR3000 new model, some parts have been improved when you're looking at the emulation performance, but some parts are still absolutely horrible. They say it can run PlayStation 1, but as you can see in this video, it's absolutely one big lie. It's a very cheap device, the front glass is very cheap plastic and it scratches up fairly easy. The overall performance, especially the money you're paying for it, is really bad. The HDMI signal out is very cool, but if you had like better performance, it would maybe like a very interesting contender. For now, I want to thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of this, and it would be great to see you in the next video.